Alright guys, we have the first anniversary card out, which is the blue version of Yuta. So in this video, I'm going to do a quick review of Yuta, especially in comparison to Sukuna, because Sukuna is the other blue DPS. So it's kind of like if you are going to go for Yuta, Sukuna is the best alternative, okay? So that's kind of what I'll do a bit of a comparison between them. And then the second half of the video, I'm going to talk about whether or not you should actually summon for him, and also if you do, then when should you actually summon for him? Because I'm going to be, in fact, I will be honest with you guys up front. You shouldn't be summoning for him for at least the next 10 days. As for the reason why, I'll leave that in the towards the end of the video for you guys to check it out. But let's start off with just talking about the character himself. Actually, no, let's start off with the recollections on this banner first, just to rule them out. The main reason you're summoning for this banner is going to be for the character, not for the recollection. Even though the recollections are decent, they are somewhat niche. Okay. So the first one, this one offers 25% curse technique increase. That is actually very high, but there are already loads of other recollections which are able to do similar amount of buff depending on different stages. So that's kind of why, even though this is good, this is nothing crazy. Okay, this is nothing different to a lot of the other good recollections out there. The main thing which make it slightly different is going to be the second half of the skill, which is 10 curse energy to all curse users. However, right now in this game, there's only Miguel and Ghetto, I believe. They are the only two curse users. So once again, it's going to be somewhat niche in the scenarios where you will actually be playing them and then also using this recollection at the same time. So even though it's good, I feel like it's a very niche scenario where you absolutely have to have it. And then for the second recollection, this one's also very good because it can offer up to 95% curse technique buff, which is a lot higher than the likes of non-standard, etc. However, the main thing with this is that this is pretty much just for blue DPS, which is going to be either Yuta, this new Yuta, or Sukuna. However, for both of them, they actually have physical technique attacks, which basically means they can actually be used to double stack Pride. And if you do actually end up double stacking Pride, you're going to get 120% buff, which is a lot higher than the 95% hit. So once again, for any kind of stages where you can actually afford to double stack Pride, which to be honest is going to be vast majority of cases, then this recollection is not able to offer anything better than what Pride is already able to do as well. Okay, so that's kind of why I would say yes, this is a good recollection, but once again, the usage of it is actually going to be pretty rare and only on certain very niche scenarios. So that's kind of why overall the two recollections are just good, but not good enough for you to justify summoning specifically on this banner just for them. So that's kind of why the main reason you'll be summoning is going to be for the character himself, which is going to be Blue Yuta. Now, how good is Blue Yuta in comparison to Sukuna? I can tell you he is going to be a lot higher damage than Sukuna and also a lot easier to use. The main reason for this is the way you want to play him is pretty much just spamming his skill 3, and then once your ult is charged up, use his ult. This will then buff up your skill 3 to a different version, and then you end up spamming again. Okay, that's literally like going to be the routine for 90% of the time. So that's kind of why it's very easy to use. And in terms of damage output wise as well, this is going to be higher than Sukuna for two reasons. One, Sukuna actually have a bit of a downtime right after he uses his ultimate attack because he can't actually go spamming his ultimate attack straight into his skill 3 afterwards. There's actually one turn where he is forced to use his skill 2. Whereas Yuta doesn't have that problem. He can literally just spam his skill 3 afterwards. And in fact, he can spam it for even longer than what Sukuna is able to do. So that's kind of why over a longer duration, Yuta is going to outperform Sukuna for sure. And over a shorter duration, Yuta is also going to outperform Sukuna because, like I said, Sukuna does have that 110 downtime, which is annoying. And also, Sukuna, a lot of his attack is going to be damaged over time. So he actually requires time to realize that damage, whereas Yuta is actually able to realize that damage straight away. So that's kind of why Yuta is just going to be outperforming Sukuna, both in shorter duration and also in longer duration. Okay, so with that being said, you must be thinking, oh, Yuta is just going to be so much better than Sukuna, then there's no reason to play Sukuna anymore. That's not actually quite the case either, because I would still argue there are going to be cases where Sukuna is actually going to be better. And the main reason for this is going to be, if you actually take a look at Yuta's skill 3, this is a single target. And if you also take a look at his ultimate attack, this is also a single target. Whereas what Sukuna is able to do, at least with his ultimate attack, is actually an AoE attack and therefore able to hit multiple enemies. So for those few stages where there are multiple enemies and you actually have the ability to, let's say, wipe out the side minions or do significant damage to, let's say, the bosses in order for you to actually finish them off early, then Sukuna is actually going to be slightly better when for those cases with either minions or multiple bosses. Okay, so that's going to be like pretty much the only scenario I think Sukuna would be better than Yuta, at least in terms of like the blue DPS front. Now, if we're actually talking about stages outside of blue damage, then Sukuna is also going to be better than Yuta because damage over time is not actually restricted to certain color. So let's say if the enemy is not actually weak against blue, what's going to happen is that Yuta may actually be severely debuffed because he's not actually able to do non-blue damage, whereas Sukuna does have that way of cheesing stages through his damage over time, which doesn't really conform to any kind of color advantage. Okay, so that's kind of why for those kind of few scenarios when there are multiple stages, or when you actually want to cheese the stages, Sukuna is going to be better. But if we're just talking about purely blue DPS, single target, then obviously Yuta is going to do a lot better than Sukuna, okay? I'll probably say, just a rough estimate, I'll probably say Yuta is going to be better for like 80% of the stages, 80% of the blue stages, etc., whereas Sukuna is going to be better for the remaining 20, where there's multiple enemies or side minions, okay? Now, with all that being said, should they actually summon for Yuta? Now, the way I'm going to do it is I'll probably categorize all of the players out there into 3 groups. The first group is going to be, let's say if you already have Sukuna. In those cases, I'll probably say it's not really worth going after Yuta anymore because yes, Yuta is going to be performing better than Sukuna. However, it's just going to be for some of the stages. And for those stages, it's not saying that Sukuna just got completely useless, right? Sukuna is still going to be very good DPS nonetheless. It's just that Yuta is going to be more OP and just crazy with his blue damage, okay? But that's not to say Sukuna is bad. So that's kind of why, even though you may have Sukuna and you feel like Yuta is going to perform a lot better than him, is that really worth that incremental benefit? That is, I personally don't think it's worth it. Like, unless you have like so much resources that you can guarantee all of the other anniversary limited character that will be coming out, because it's very likely they will all be very strong, crazy strong as well. Okay, so unless you have enough resources to, let's say, guarantee at least 4 characters all the way to full pity, otherwise I feel like Yuta can be one of the ones where you can make an easy decision to skip purely because you already have a very good alternative in the form of Sukuna. Okay, so that would be one way of looking at it, and also that's also going to be the case, let's say, if you already invested in your Sukuna. For example, if you already spent a universal dupe in Sukuna, unless you also have a universal dupe to spend on Yuta as well. Otherwise, maybe a duped version of Sukuna is actually better than a non-duped version of Yuta as well, right? So those are all the things you have to bear in mind. And I just feel like vast majority of the time, it's probably not worth that risk of summoning for this and then potentially missing out on other limited character. Because yes, Yuta is better, but incremental, I don't know, that's debatable, okay? So that's going to be for the first group of player where you already have Sukuna. Then for the second group of player, it's going to be those of you guys who don't have Sukuna, but you only started the game recently. And I'm going to use a tower as a rough way of splitting the players. If you're early game or early or mid game, what I'm going to say is that you are only able to get to, let's say, the first 60 floors for the tower mode, illusory tower. In those kind of cases, Sukuna is actually still going to be better than Yuta, purely because of the fact that Sukuna can actually cheese a lot of damage for the non-blue floors. Now, of course, there's no guarantee Sukuna will be getting a rebanner right now in Anniversary, because we don't actually know which limited characters will get in rebanner. So you may not actually get the chance to actually summon for Sukuna, in which case, fine. You have to go with Yuta as your blue DPS. But I'll probably suggest you guys just wait for a bit longer to see whether or not Sukuna would be one of the rebanner options. And if you're still early game, you're still in the first 60 floors of tower, Sukuna is probably still going to offer more value overall in comparison to Yuta, because he actually allows you to cheese through all 4 different colors of the tower floors quicker than what Yuta is able to do. Okay, Yuta is just for the blue floors. So I'll probably suggest for the second row players who are early game and don't have Sukuna, wait and see whether or not Sukuna is getting a rebanner first before deciding to pull the trigger on Yuta. And then for the third group of players, which are the ones who are already in the late game, so they say tower floor 60 plus, this is going to be a tricky one. If you're already in tower floor 60 plus and you don't have Sukuna, I'm almost thinking like, how did you get that far? Like, probably the only way you can get that far is probably you have like a max dupe Joker or some other way. Or I don't know whether or not Camo is going to be good enough. But basically, it's going to be kind of depending on how you even are able to get that far in Illusory Tower without having a really solid blue DPS such as Sukuna. And then up to you to decide with whatever blue DPS you already have right now in order to get that far in the tower mode. Is Yuta actually going to be such a big upgrade over your existing DPS for you to justify something for it. Okay, obviously this is going to vary a lot depending on what DPS you already have. Okay, I would probably say if you have, let's say, dupe 5 Jogo, then maybe dupe 5 Jogo is almost equivalent to a Sukuna. Then we'll be going down to the first group of character of whether or not the incremental value of Yuta over 5 dupe Jogo is going to be good enough to justify something for it. But let's say if your blue DPS is, I don't know, let's say blue Megumi, I don't even know whether he's capable of carrying you all the way to floor 60 plus in Lucio Tower. But let's say if that is going to be the case, then fine. Yuta is probably going to be a massive upgrade to whatever existing blue DPS you already have. Okay, so it's going to be a lot more down to your personal box, what blue DPS you already have right now, and the incremental value of Yuta over that. Okay, so for those kind of players, it's really going to be your own personal decision. But I'm just going to say, if you're already able to get that far in tower mode, very likely you already have a very good blue DPS. Okay, and the incremental value of Yuta is not going to be as obvious. But that's just basically my thoughts on Yuta, on whether or not it should be something for him. But another key question is going to be, when should it be something for him? Like I said at the start of the video, you definitely shouldn't be something for him for at least the next 10 days. And there are 2 reasons for that. Well, actually 3 reasons for that. Number 1, like I said, you could wait for see whether or not some of the rebanner will be coming out. For example, if Sukuna is going to be coming out as a rebanner, and then depending on whether or not you're an early stage game player, then you may actually want to end up picking Sukuna for early game rather than picking up Yuta for the later game, because you're still quite far away from end game. Okay, so that could be one reason. May you want to wait. Then the second reason is going to be the other anniversary character, other limited character for anniversary should be announced on JP in the next week or so. So you could obviously also take a look at how strong the other anniversary characters are. Very likely they will all be crazy strong. Okay, so that's kind of what I would say. Probably Yuta is one of the better ones for you to skip. But obviously take a look at all of the other future limited characters and then comparison to your box to see which one's going to add more incremental benefit to your existing box. Okay, so that's another reason why you should be waiting. And then the third reason why you should be waiting is that I don't know how many people actually realize this, but one of the latest event we got alongside this update is going to be this map event, and they actually have a really good rewards here. If you actually go, no, sorry, not in the mission, but the reward for upgrading your building, what you can see is that up to, if you're actually able to get all the way up to 150, floor 150, you can get another 10 tickets. If you're actually able to get to 200, you're going to get another 15 tickets. Okay, and then that's already 25 just from rewards. And then from the shop itself, what you are going to see is that for all of the different tiers of the shop, you are also going to get some extra tickets that you're able to redeem from here as well. Okay, for example, here you can even redeem 50 times. Okay, from this. So that's another reason why you should be waiting, because this event is going to last for another 12 days. Possibly by the end of those 12 days, you're already able to pick out either another 30 or 40 free tickets from here. So rather than just summoning for Yuta right now with your actual hard-earned gems, why don't just you wait for towards the end of this event, once you have already exhausted all of your free tickets, see whether you got Yuta in advance, before then pulling the trigger on whether or not you want to spend your gems to actually summon for him. Okay, so that would be another reason why you want to wait as well. And that's kind of why I say you should be waiting for at least the next 10 days towards the end of the event, just to try your luck to see whether or not you're actually able to pick up him for free beforehand. Now, how many tickets can you actually get for this is going to be a big question mark, by the way, even though this is actually very high. If you actually add up all of the tickets for this, I already done the math. I think you are actually able to get 155 tickets from here. And then if you're actually able to add up the ones from the upgrading the building, which is another 25, what that's basically going to mean is that you're actually able to get up to 180 tickets in total from this event. However, I also done some rough calculation. I don't think anyone is able to get all those 180 by being purely free to play. You would have to end up spending some actual money or paid gems in order to make sure you can actually redeem all of the rewards. By my very conservative estimation, I feel like vast majority of free-to-play players can probably only pick up 30 tickets, to be honest, or maybe even 40, because I don't actually think you will get enough dices to actually upgrade the building all the way up to 200 to floor 200. I think this is going to be far too big a stretch for free-to-play players. I'm even questioning whether or not you can get to 150 completely free-to-play. So that's kind of why, even though there are up to 180 tickets shown in this event. I don't actually think you can get all of them being free to play. So just wait towards the end of the event to see how lucky you are and how many tickets you're able to get. Any free tickets better than no tickets, right? So just wait towards the end of the event, but definitely don't place too much hope thinking that you're able to pick up all of the rewards here, because yeah, unless you spend some serious money, real life money with paid gems, otherwise you definitely won't be able to redeem them all. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the new Blue Yuta and whether or not you should be summoning for him and also when. Let me know what you guys think and also what your guys' plans are.